Times Network brought together activists, business leaders, policy makers, and everyday citizens in its inaugural India Climate Summit to address the impact of climate change. These distinguished voices have championed the cause of climate action. They have been raising awareness and protecting the future of our planet. The summit brought forth its commitment to foster a sustainable nation, uniting stakeholders in a common agenda. India Climate Summit brought together domain experts to address the ecological consequences of climate change and its effects on biodiversity and wildlife in an aptly titled session, Impact of Climate Change Beyond Humans.
I think so important once in a lifetime, during our phases of learning, we stop and we think also about not just ourselves, but like you said, those beyond humans. So I think this is going to be a fascinating conversation as we get kick-started with Purnima, Anish, and Bitusa. But Purnima, with both the gentlemen's permission, I just met her outside and she told me something very fascinating. And I want to begin by letting Purnima stand up, please, if possible. And she wants to show us something. And I think if you just look at her, maybe not from a distance you can make out, but I think there is so much symbolism in what she's going to be doing now, saying, and how she's also dressed up. So just spend a moment to look at her very carefully. Purnima, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Diptiji. So namaskar to everyone from Assam, and I'm very honored to be here, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I can see Bittu sir and Anishji. I'm very honored to be here and to share our journey with all of you. And as Diptiji introduced me as Purnima, I request all of you for a while to forget my name, and please remember my name as Hargila. The bird, Hargila, the greater adjutant stork. This is one of the rarest species of storks in the world. And can you see the birds in me? Yeah, so you can see the birds.
I'll hold the mic for you so that you can show this well.
You can see the birds, in all my mekhela sadar. This is our Assamese mekhela sadar. And we have more than 10,000 women as Hargila army to save these storks. And all these women our women are homemakers converted into conservationists and entrepreneur, and they make these.
That's just a super beautiful beginning to this session, and I'm sure we'll have lots more interesting insights. And thank you. I think the audience has been a super sport. Purnima, you've literally woken them up. It's a lovely morning, even otherwise, very breezy, but yes, with a lot of inconvenience that people have been facing to get to the venue, and likewise. But when you talk of impact of climate change beyond humans, and I'll begin with Bittu Sehgal sir now, what is the first thing that we all should be doing and we do not do? Do we really think of anyone else but beyond ourselves? So forget about us thinking of, beyond humans, because we've become very selfish, isn't it?
Well, let me instead reverse this. Let's think about ourselves. We are the only animals on earth that have the technology to produce waste. There is no other plant, no other animal, no other insect, no other fish, no other whale, no other elephant, nothing else, not even a cockroach. It does not know how to produce waste. That's the first reason. That's the first thing that we have to accept with a great deal of humility. That for all our wisdom, we've called ourselves Homo sapiens, the wise one. But are we really that wise? I think that is our first start. As far as these other animals, the penguins behind who are going to be in trouble, the polar bears that are going to be in trouble, why are they in trouble? Not because of themselves, not because of a meteor. They're in trouble because of us. Because we believe that the wisdom that we have assumed, almost, that we are wiser than the biosphere. I promise you we are not. And I don't know what else you would like me to say, but I do have a few things I'd like to add, and tell me how much time.
Absolutely. You can add. You can go on, sir.
I run an organization called the Sanctuary Nature Foundation. There are no wildlifers on our organization. They're all economists, they're communicators. Because Anish is sitting here, I'm sitting here, look at Purnima, she's sitting there. We know all that is to be done about wildlife. We know it now, what the problems are. The problems are that we are not in control of a system that does not understand what the biosphere is really doing. There was a man called Herman Daly, and he said that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the biosphere. That is something that he said, it was accepted, and it's been forgotten, not just by politicians and businessmen and things, even by any one of us. We believe, for instance, that our best security is financial security. It is not. It could vanish inside a moment. We had a $40 billion trade, the illegal wildlife trade, which was ignored because it was considered, oh, ye log to जानवरों को बचाना चाहते हैं तो क्या कर सकते हैं. That $40 billion wildlife trade plus the illegal and the legal trade is what Professor Partha Dasgupta with the Dasgupta Review has come back and with absolute evidence has shown that that was the reason for our pandemic. That coupled with ecosystem destruction, because it's love me, love my dog. Every one of us has viruses inside. We were born with that. This is part of evolution. So we need to have a touch of humility and a touch of understanding. And I'd say to you like this, that the other gentleman the economist, Lord Nicholas Stern from the India Observatory, London School of Economics, 13 or 14 years ago, he came back and he came out with the Stern Review. We use that word Stern Review twice. You know, one is Mr. Stern and one is it was very stern. And what he said then, 14 years ago, has come back home like the chickens have come home to roost. And it is hurting the economy badly. He said the cost of inaction, he said 14 years ago, is going to be much less than the cost of action. And we are seeing that now, every single day. Wildfires in Canada, cyclones in Florida, half of Chennai drowned, half of Pakistan drowned, all these things have consequences. And I think that right now, if I had just one single thing to communicate to the decision makers of this country, good people with good intentions, is just this. Please do not treat the forest as a resource for raw materials. It is a source for life. Our rivers originate there. All that we eat, everything that we eat, it comes in one form or another from some wild place. Bees, birds, all these things. And when I say we are the only ones that have the technology to waste, I must say that everybody in this room, you are a little too old for me. I'm 76 years old, but my constituency, the average age, is about 13, 12, 14. I've almost given up on my age group of people. And they understand so quickly because they don't have cynicism, they don't have a secondary guessing, they don't have next quarter profits, they don't have next elections. And we tell them something just as simple as this. Look, there is a word called homeostasis. Homeostasis is a word that 10-year-olds have been explained. How do we explain it? You get a fever, you start sweating. That cools you down. You get cold, you start shivering, your core gets warm. When a system comes back to balance, the process is called homeostasis. At this moment, we are rocking the homeostasis boat by imagining that GDP will pull us out of all the problems that we have. Now, we don't have any more time to fight with each other. I've fought court cases here and court cases there, and I've been called bitter Saigal for half my life instead of Bitu Saigal. But I'm not bitter. I'm scared. I'm really worried because there is one economic principle, and that economic principle is not invented by us, it's been invented by economists. And essentially what it says is, if you undervalue an asset, you are destined to lose it. And I'll stop just by saying this, that a river is not just a river, it's an infrastructure. The glaciers, they were an infrastructure. The mangroves are an infrastructure. Those people who live in Calcutta should go and worship the mangroves because they would be wiped out by the cyclones if it were not for that barrier, which cost nothing. It costs us nothing, so we don't value it. So I think that I for one, truly believe with the children that we are speaking with, that the biosphere will win. It will win. I keep telling them, please don't get, I have no right to tell them a lie. I must tell them the truth, and I have no right to foist ecological grief on them, nor on you. Things will fix themselves. During the pandemic, we saw blue skies. We saw animals coming back, and then we've forgotten, and we've gone back to doing the same things. This does not mean कि हम घर में बैठ के go up in a cave and sit down. No. All it means is the same way that a large corporation would carefully look at costs, it would look at benefits, it would look at waste, it would try and use the waste back. We have to do the same thing with the rest of the planet. That polar bear over there is nothing other than a metaphor. And the tiger, I can tell you this, I can honestly tell you this, I think we're making a mistake by looking to the industrial nations of the North as our North Star. We must teach them how to live with less and still be happy. If we are able to do that, we'll be able to solve the problem. My happiness must lie in your happiness and yours in mine, figuratively speaking. If we do that, I think we should be all right. There's a lot more here. Please take great pride in the fact that I'm part of something called the Global Rewilding Alliance. It's about 130 organizations across every continent.
Is the truth that we can still make a difference, or are we already very late? You know, talking of how successive governments have seen this issue, not seen this enough. Now, I was reading there is this India's National Wildlife Action Plan for 2017 to 2031 that does say that, you know, there is this huge need for wildlife conservation efforts in India. But are we really doing that? Where are we on that journey?
So, first of all, Dipti, I think unless we integrate our renewable energy plans with our natural resource conservation and management plans, we will never be able to solve this. Because when we put out all those flashy numbers as to what needs to be done, how much gigawatts of renewable energy has to be, we have to understand that all these infrastructures, Bittu spoke about natural infrastructures, have to be replaced by renewable cells like the solar cell, the wind energy, all that needs infrastructure, and that is impinging upon already degraded lands of India. The Cheetah project that you see is the biggest example of how it went under our radar that 200,000 square kilometers of grassland had vanished from our country in just 100 years. So when this iconic animal came back, there is no space. Imagine a country which is 35 lakh square kilometer doesn't have even 3,000 square kilometers of grassland for a carnivore which used to exist in this country. So when this project came in, most of the people were elated, but I was saddened by the fact that natural ecosystem in India, first of all, means forests. We don't understand still that ecosystem is not equal to forest. Ecosystems could be under the sea, ecosystems are in the rivers, grasslands, marshlands. Today, the Honorable Environment Minister said that the energy output from wastelands like the marshes in Gujarat and Rajasthan are going to be used for renewable energy. First of all, India needs to understand that we cannot have a wasteland atlas. You know, we have a wasteland atlas, and most of these saltwater marshes, most of these grasslands and ecosystems that we don't identify as forest are part of that wasteland atlas. So unless we start understanding that biodiversity is not about tigers, biodiversity is not about the elephant or the whale, we will not be able to solve it. We have to understand that climate change and nature per se, in terms of The ocean, we always talk about the forest. There are a lot of wonderful images behind, and that's thankfully of the ocean. But we don't even ask, why should this planet be called Earth when the ocean is 70% of this planet, right? So we need to start changing our paradigms, changing that understanding. The ocean is the conveyor belt for energy production. We talk of renewable energy, but energy means food. All of us humans, 7-point-some billion human beings can survive. We are all cells that survive on fuel, and that fuel is energy that comes from food. Most of our ecosystems are still producing that energy for us. That has not changed over the last 300 million years. And that has not changed in the last 300 years that we have started controlling this planet, right? So if the ocean is going to get impacted by climate change, which it is getting, for instance, I'll just give you an example. In the last 3 months, from March 2024 to June 2024, coral reefs in Lizard Island, which is in the Great Barrier Reef, which is considered to be the most secure and the massive coral reef, it got bleached by 95% just 3 months. And that is your conveyor belt. The food that is produced by the corals, the seagrass, all that is getting impacted. And as that happens, our natural ecosystems are going to have cascading effects on our cropping patterns. It is going to have a huge impact on the food availability. It is eventually going to cause social unrest. What we call refugee situation is not because of some anger between two types of people. It is rooted in environment degradation. Environment degradation leads to social unrest. Social unrest leads to law and order situation, which eventually precipitates as refugee situation. So every single refugee situation, and millions of people are today getting displaced forcibly, it is the root cause of it is environment. So unless we take into consideration the voting bank, which is those millions of species, 1.3 million species exist on this planet known, but there could be as many as 9 million species on this planet. As long as they don't have a voice, we are not going to solve this problem.
Okay, and I hope we are really their voice, because it's important to raise their concerns, and that's the entire idea behind, getting people who can make a difference, who can think, who can actually take our message forward, Anish. And, because I have limited time, Purnima, but, like I said, ever since, you introduced me outside, I was fascinated with so much that she is doing at such a young age, right from her clothes to the symbolism to her passion. She told me, ma'am, mujhe bolne den, I want to say this. So, I think that is what comes from the heart. I'll just give you the last perhaps 2 minutes, Purnima, as we'll conclude this session. Tell me more about the Hargila bird. What is it that you're doing? Because clearly we sitting here in this room might not be aware, but what does it take, to bring that much of passion to what you're doing, and has it made a difference or an impact?
When I started my work, everything was from my PhD, and at that time I was a mother of twin girls. As I was a new mother, and I saw a man cutting down a tree, huge nesting tree, and all the baby birds fell down. And when I confronted the person, he and his neighbors, all of them teased me, scolded me, and they said that this bird is a bad omen and it doesn't need to live. And it was the instinct, it was the motherly instinct, or something fired me up. And like how can a bird be treated as bad omen? And so we must now, so I also realized in my journey that we are always obsessed with the large animals or charismatic species, so we have to think beyond that. And that was the incident that made me challenge that we have to bring the birds into the tradition and culture. And this way, now you can see our passion become passion. And when I started, I found that the solution lies in communities and women, because our species, this bird, should be a part of our tradition and culture. And we started working with women. It was very tough at first, but now it's now more than 10,000 women joined as Hargila Army. It's a stork sisterhood model, and it's very infectious. And when we are saving the storks, the Hargila birds, we are protecting the trees, we are protecting the wetlands, wetlands, and this is also saving many other species of storks and other birds. And on the wetlands, it is also protecting the migratory birds. And earlier, this bird was also hunted, but now when our community stopped the hunting, it also affecting the other species of migratory birds. So, and in terms of tradition and culture, in Assam, we celebrate baby shower for Hargila, Pansamrit, God Bharai for Hargila. You can join us. It's like a massive movement. And we have our women give Assamese traditional prayers, Assamese hymn. You can't imagine until you come to our village. It's every day. It's a 24
You must invite
hours
everyone.
of,
You must invite everyone there to be a part of this.
Yeah, you can come.
And like you said, when
in terms
passion
of,
becomes fashion.
Fashion, yeah. And I believe that conservation and livelihood goes hand in hand. So we have to work on that. So, and in terms of climate change, so the initiation is so, yeah, we also do observe. When people think about Hargila birds, so behind this, I keep visiting village to village, places to places in search of the wetlands.
Yes, Purnima, I think more power to all of you here. Purnima and both gentlemen, what an honor. And we really look forward to having you here on the forum again. Thank you.